well. By using existing platforms or even onshore locations, you can directionally drill to some of the 10 billion barrels that Tupper was mentioning without installing any new platforms. And I would also mention in closing that the MMS made that prediction in 1985, and they have not been permitted since then to update their reserve numbers. That same year, they estimated that in the Gulf there were 9 billion barrels of oil potential. 25 years later, and 6,000 platforms later, which is what's been installed in the Gulf, the reserve number is now 45 billion. So even though we've been producing from 6,000 offshore platforms for 25 years, we have 5 times as much reserve. And that gets to Steve's point where the oil is where the oil is and has been in the past.
Mr. Chairman, I just touched on that.
Please.
We have Vandenberg Air Force Base there. You have the ability on the base to drill horizontally out so you're never even offshore. And there's one thing that happens in Santa Barbara that's much different. You have a natural seepage of oil onto the beach. And an individual came to my office and was showing me the statistics of the growth of that and what that does to the birds and the environment and the others. The ability to take that out where the natural seepage, where you can control it where it's coming through, could protect the environment from the seepage of the direction of where it's going. And you can do that now because of technology in a much more environmentally safe way that you talked about.
In fact, the seepage is over 100 barrels a day. So when Tupper was talking about the 800 barrels over 30 years or whatever the figure was, represents about 8 days of what Mother Nature does every day.
And if you would relieve that and direct it, it would not be causing the environmental concerns and problems that it is currently.
That's correct.
I yield back.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask a couple of questions to Mr. Whitsitt. We appreciate your operations actually in South Texas. You're a great employer.
You know, you keep going right to the edge of our indulgence here. You know, I said this was going to be casual and friendly, but, you know, just stop rubbing it in. First of all, you haven't said Oklahoma once. If you keep saying Texas over California, I'll start rubbing Oklahoma against you, and I know what that does to Texas.
Especially when it comes to football.
Exactly.
But let's talk a little bit about the water, because that is actually of more interest to California than it is to Texas. Though we are a semi-arid state, we have a great deal of water resources. It's stuff. The bulk of the water that y'all use in hydraulic fracking operations, you recycle. I mean, you pump it down there and you bring it back. Is that not correct?
We recycle where we can. I wouldn't say it's the bulk of the water. We're getting better at this all the time, but where we can recycle, we can recover about 40% of the water and then blend it with fresh water and that kind of thing.
All right, so let's compare a fracking operation to amount of energy produced. If you can't do this, don't know in your head, that's okay. But I think you were saying a typical gallon of ethanol takes 120 gallons of water in irrigation. So to create a gallon of gasoline at a fracked well, I mean, it's got to be an order of magnitude difference, doesn't it?
I think what we've said in the testimony is, and this is very interesting, that the amount of water it takes to frack a well that'll produce, I think, up to 3 billion cubic feet of gas, that's a lot of gas, would produce about 120 barrels of ethanol.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about, we're talking about how much natural gas there is there. We're starting to see technology develop where automobiles, buses, and fleets are starting to run on natural gas. And again, I apologize if I'm getting out of your area of expertise, but just if you take the BTU output or the energy output of natural gas versus gasoline to power a vehicle, do you have an idea, or does anybody on the panel have an idea what the cost of a gallon of gasoline if we were using natural gas in vehicles would be?
I think in Oklahoma City, if I remember correctly, the latest numbers that I've seen for an equivalent was about $1.39.
So if you're a natural gas vehicle, $1.39 the equivalent of what we're now paying $5 for. So potentially a great economic boom. Is that technology that's, I assume that technology is pretty close. I mean, I see natural gas buses everywhere.
Well, Congressman, I had a natural gas-powered dual-fueled Buick in 1995, and I had a fueler right in my garage that ran off my house and house gas system. And that technology is out there. It's a matter of economics. It's a matter of getting the range on the vehicles. They are coming, and particularly with fleets, and I think the market is sorting that out. It's a great benefit to the country.
I remember as I was growing up, I guess it would have been 30 years ago, we had butane-powered farm trucks. I mean, that's a mature technology. I want to shift back to a little one broad kind of general question, if you would. I noticed in your resume that you actually, public policy was something you studied in college. Let's take a big, broad, general picture of the energy policy of this country. As I look at it now, we're promoting an energy policy that's looking to do away with some of your tax credits. We're looking at an increased regulatory burden. If you were going to concoct an energy policy that was adverse to creating affordable energy for everybody, and maybe I shouldn't ask this, can you think of something we're not doing to make it worse?
It's difficult, but let me just correct a couple of things that you said and try to build on that. First of all, we don't get tax credits, tax business deductions.
I didn't read the talking points memo on that, but what the other side calls tax credits are basically the same fair business treatment that any other industry gets.
That's right. And that question that you asked is a great question, because first, energy policy should do no harm. And it seems like we've got things turned upside down on their head now, where we are trying to do things with energy policy that would punish those that are doing the right thing efficiently for the country. We are ignoring sources of energy that are safe and secure. I'll give you one example that this committee might be interested in, and that is, when we look at North America, we have the most sophisticated natural gas market in the world, and it is relatively insulated from the rest of the world. Not totally, but relatively. In the oil market, we also have our largest supplier of oil outside the United States is Canada. And yet we are stalling in putting additional capacity through the Keystone XL pipeline from Canada to bring more oil into the U.S. And it's incomprehensible why we would be doing that. Again, the State Department has found the environmental consequences are not great, and we can use the energy, we need it. And again, I could go down the list, Congressman, but it really reflects what you just said.
Thank you very much.
Well, all good things must come to an end, and in this case, mostly we've borrowed this room. So I want to close. First of all, I want to thank the Courage Campaign who came up and gave me a petition with a relatively limited amount of information, but an awful lot of people who care about this issue. I understand there are some other companies and individuals who brought items today. If you'll bring them up before we leave, they will all be included in the record. Additionally, if you note our favorite URL, AmericanJobCreators.com. If you go to AmericanJobCreators.com, especially for the young people, snicker, but please go there. Consider looking and asking yourself, what is standing in the way of job creation? We don't predetermine. We ask you to tell us what you believe and be specific. And if you'll do that, you'll join the endless numbers of people who have done that. Originally, it was based on a few letters sent out and then a demand by job creators around the country to have an opportunity to tell what they believe is stopping them. With that, I will ask unanimous consent that we leave the committee report open for 7 days so that all members can include opening remarks and other extraneous material. We will, as I said, collect information today and through AmericanJobCreators.com. And I'd like to thank our witnesses. You've been very kind with your time. I would also suggest that if answers based on our prompting come to you, please include those. We want to make the record complete. This is the first on this particular portion, but we will be looking at all aspects of energy self-sufficiency in the days to come, so don't be limited in your responses. And with that, this hearing is adjourned.
Thank you.